И мы снова на связи. Я рад приветствовать нашего замечательного гостя. Он к нам долго-долго ехал из Великобритании. На самом деле, по цифровым каналам, слава богу, это очень доступно и быстро. Карлос является автором очень интересного фреймворка, очень интересной концепции управления выгодами, то есть проектный офис для реализация выгод проектным офисом. Он автор нескольких книг, преподаватель в университете. Я уверен, что у него будет очень интересный доклад, и вам будет очень интересно послушать. Но, как я уже говорил, мы не будем переводить эту сессию для того, чтобы максимально емко дать весь этот контент. Okay, Carlos, I introduced you, so you're welcome.
Okay, so hello all. First of all, thank you for having me here today, and apologies for being speaking in English because, well, my knowledge of Russian it's zero. I'm very sorry. And so I'm here today to talk to you about benefits realization management for PMOs. And I want to start by asking you a question. And the question is, why do we run projects? So this is a very important question that's very related to benefits. So, well, why do we run projects? You may say that because we work for an organization and we need to do something that the organization needs. So we usually say that the reasons for whatever we do is because the organization will have needs, but also there are things that are wants. And in reality, we're not talking about the organization. The organization doesn't need or doesn't want anything. We're talking about people. We're talking about the people who work for the organization, the people who own the organization. So people will need things, people will want things. And that's why we run projects. So people will have ideas to meet the needs and the wants. And actually, what they want is they want to achieve something good, something beneficial. And at the end, they want to feel a sense of improvement. And that's the reason why we run projects. And we call the results of these projects, we call them benefits. So when we're thinking about projects, we expect something. We believe that we are going to achieve benefits. And the next step is, obviously, if you are going to do something like this, at some point we will need to make a decision because these things are not done for free. Projects are not done for free. We need to spend like work. We need to do some work. We need to spend time. We need to buy services. We need to buy equipment, we need to buy materials. And all these things will have what? Cost associated. And again, at the beginning, when you are planning things, this cost is believed, is expected, but things may change later. So, and then when you're making this decision, well, what you want to achieve at the end, because you compare the benefits, so the good things that you expect to achieve as a result from those projects, you compare against the costs, and at the end you may have a result, a positive result. You expect to have a positive result when you compare costs against benefits. And this positive result, it's most times measured in money, in monetary terms. But at the end of the day, what do you want? You want to make people happy. And that's why we run projects. So we may want to make the shareholders happy. We may want to make the population of the country happy. We may want to make the employees happy. We may want to make the owner of the company happy. We want to make people happy. Some people will be happy just because they got more money, but other people may say that money do not buy happiness. So this is arguable. I'm not getting to this debate, but at the end of the day, this is what translates the concept of value. So value is the value we give to the comparison against the costs and the benefits. So this is value. So, and that's why we run projects. We run projects to create value. And all this process that I demonstrated here to you on the screen, this is what we call the business case. So the business case, it's all about comparing costs and benefits to meet people's needs and wants, and at the end, to make someone happy. Or lots of people happy. So now let's go to the next question. And why is it difficult to create strategic value through projects? Well, first point, when you ask me, how do we run projects? I will tell you, there are lots of different methodologies, techniques, tools, practices, and every day, every month, every year, lots of new techniques and methods, they come up. So project management, some people say that project management is just common sense. Other people know that project management is complicated and you need to use lots of techniques, lots of methods. And it becomes more and more complicated as we learn more and as we increase the complexity of the projects. And this makes it difficult for people to communicate. And makes it difficult for people to apply so many practices, so many tools, so many techniques. So which one's the best? Which one should we use? Which one is our organization telling us to use? So this makes things very complicated. So we talked about tools and techniques. So the second problem is people. Projects, they don't fail because of methodologies. They don't fail because of tools. They don't fail because of anything but people. They fail because people do things, well, not in the best way, do not communicate well. They fail because of people. And as we have more and more people involved in the projects, it becomes more difficult because people, in very, very important thing, people are different. We have different mindsets. We think differently, and we find it very difficult to communicate clearly with each other. And many times we think that, well, we know everything, and we think that people are going to read our minds. They will think similarly. They will have the same ideas. And when we say that things are common sense, then it's when we make our biggest mistake. Because what's common sense for me, it may be very, very different to what's common sense to you and to another person. So you put together a massive, big group of people along with lots of different methodologies and techniques. Each person will prefer to use something different. Each person will know something different. And some people will have very little knowledge. Other people will have a lot of knowledge. And this makes things very complicated. Apart from that, in projects involving lots of people, you have many different roles. And these different roles will have different responsibilities. And in most cases, there is no clarity about the responsibilities, who does what. And it makes it very, very difficult for people to communicate, to do what they have to do, and to achieve good results. So you see, projects are difficult because of techniques, tools, people. And the last point, it's about goals. As we saw in the first slides, when we run projects, we want to achieve something. We want to create value. But it's any kind of value better than no value? Not necessarily, because when you are running an organization, when you are managing an organization using a strategy, you know what kind of value, specifically the type of value you need to create to be successful in your strategy. And it's not any value, it's a specific value. So you have the goal. But what we have many times in our organizations is that we have lots of goals. So this is stuff that diverge our attention. And more complicated than that, sometimes the goals, they become confusing. and we cannot see the main goal of the organization. And some other times, we don't even know what the main goal of the organization is. So I suggest you to do something. Ask your team if they know the goals of the organization. You may be surprised with their response. Okay, so let's move on to overcoming the challenge. So, well, we saw this challenge, we have these problems. So how can we overcome these problems? How can we overcome this challenge? Important, goals and strategy. We need to have clarity in terms of what we need to achieve, what we want to achieve with our projects, with our programs, with our portfolio. And we need to have our teams knowing what we want to achieve. So I saw in many organizations, in many cases, programs or projects, if you ask the program team or the project team what the objectives are, you may find it difficult to believe, but I suggest you to try and see and do the same and see. Ask the teams, ask well, some key members of the team if they know what the objectives of the program are. And in many cases, I saw people giving completely different answers. So different people involved in the same program giving me completely different answers. So they didn't have a common understanding in terms of why they were running those programs. So goals and strategy, extremely important. They need to be shared goals, shared strategy. Second, process and tools. As we saw in the previous slide, there are too many tools available, too many techniques available. So it's important to have clarity in terms of which tools, which techniques you will be using. And you need to make sure that people know and people will be using these techniques, because as we said before, you have lots of people working in a project, in a program. If they have a different level of understanding, they are using different techniques, things may become confusing and they may end up doing things differently, and the project may end up delivering results that are not what are expected. Third point, roles, responsibilities, and accountability. So you define the process, you define how people are doing things, and then it's important to define who does what. There's an interesting article that who is who in the project management zoo, and it's interesting that it's an analysis that was done that identifies this issue, that we have so many different roles, we call things so differently all across different organizations, or even across different departments of the same organization. And you may say that, for example, oh, you have the project sponsor, and you believe that the project sponsor know what their responsibilities are. But one project sponsor may have completely different responsibilities from another project sponsor, and sometimes in the same organization. And that's why it's very important to have clarity about what the roles are, how they're called, and what their responsibilities are. And accountability, who owns the delivery, who owns the results, who is accountable for it. So these things are extremely important. And next one, fourth, extremely important, competence. So because what happens is, in many times, in many organizations, you see that people are giving responsibilities, but they are not competent, they're not qualified to do what you are asking them to do. And this is the foundation for the failure. And this is something that we see more and more and more, because as we saw in the previous slide, every month, every year, we have new techniques, new process, new methodologies, new things, and people are not able to catch up with so much new knowledge. And most times you're going to hire someone, you're going to ask, oh, do you know Prince 2? Do you know Agile? Do you know Scrum? Do you know? And people will say, yes, I know, I did. Yeah, wow, I took the certification last month and things like this. But in many cases, they will not know how to do it in practice. And this is something that we see very often in projects and programs. And at the end of the day, they will struggle. they will struggle. So it's very important that you understand the competence of your team, and you make sure that your team is competent to do what you are asking them to do. So if they are not competent to apply a complex methodology, it's better to apply a simplest methodology that they are able to execute, to apply. And obviously, it's important to continue developing the competencies of your team. This is extremely important. Every project manager, every line manager, or every program manager need to understand the competence of people in their team, and they need to be able to develop the competence. That's one of the key responsibilities of the leaders, to develop the competence of the team. So you need to understand the deficiencies, and you need to be able to develop the competence. And the last one, fifth and last one, but not least important, culture. Culture is extremely important, organizational culture. So if people don't value process, if they don't value methodologies, if they don't value doing things in a structured way, you're going to have problems. Same way, if people don't value communication, if you are in an organization that's too closed and you have too many walls, it's very siloed, you have problems as well. So there are lots of things that are related to the organizational culture that are extremely important to make your project successful and to enable people to apply the techniques, in a successful way, to be able to deliver results and to create value at the end. And more than create value, to create strategic value to the organization. So let's go now and talk a little bit about benefits realization management. So where are projects struggling the most? So we have the classic problems. So we have projects overrunning, we have projects overspending, we have projects delivering outputs where requirements are not met, we have quality issues. These are the classic problems of project management. These were happening 60 years ago. These are still happening, so this will ever happen. And then we have the new problems that became more like relevant over the last decades, the last 10 years. People talking about benefits not being realized, objectives not met, strategic unalignment, and customers unhappy. And these are related to the strategic creation of value. These are different from the previous ones that are related to project management failure. So you may fail in delivering your project, deliver your outputs according to the plan. This is one type of failure. The other failure is you may deliver everything well, on time, on budget, perfect, meeting the requirements, and but you may end up not creating any value, not realizing any benefits. So these are two different types of failure. And what was found by research, some of my research and some of other people's research, is that benefits realization management will have a weak influence over the classic problems, but you have a strong influence over the new problems. So it means that if you use benefits realization management, the practice, the techniques, you are much more likely to have projects succeeding in terms of creating strategic value. And so as you see on the screen, in my research from 2012, we found that if you use a set of benefits realization management practice, you have 44% increase in chances of project success compared to if you're not using any of those practices. And later on, the PMI found that organizations with high benefits realization management maturity have 50% better performance in achieving their organizational goals. And that's what I meant in terms of being able to create strategic value to the organization, not about creating any value. So if organizations applying benefits realization management are more likely to succeed, so this becomes like a well, clear to everyone that okay, we should use it. And what you see in terms of the gap that I highlight on the screen in red is that you see that 66% of the organizations in 2020 they had a PMO. So 2/3 of the organizations had a PMO. But 31% of the organizations only have high benefits realization maturity. So in a simple calculation, we can estimate that half of us that are leaders of PMOs, half of us are probably operating in environments with low benefits realization maturity. So it means that we have a lot to improve. And then, well, the way I'm helping the PMO communities in terms of, well, how we can better support the BRM process. And that's why I've been managing PMOs for more than 10 years. So I've been, well, facing these difficulties in myself. And so I did some research, and I worked with 90 representatives from different companies, organizations, and we identified a list of more than 150 activities that PMO professionals, they execute in their organizations to support the benefits realization management process. So what I did is analyzed these, I put these in a framework, and then I grouped these into 90 categories of activities that are performance all across the benefits realization management life cycle, and these are split across 15 areas of activity and 3 thematic areas or steps. So this provides PMOs with a framework of everything that can be done by their teams to support benefits realization management, and then they can use this to improve their process, to improve the maturity of their PMO, and to improve the value that can be created by their PMO to their organization. And so how do you use this? So what I suggest is you can use this framework by using assessing the current status of your organization. So you compare what you are doing now against the framework, so against those activities that are listed in the framework, and then you establish the vision in terms of what you could do differently to improve, what you could do more, or what you could do differently. And then you produce a business case. So in terms of, okay, now I do these 10 activities, I'm planning to do these 50, and then, well, this improvement will result in improvement of performance and things like this. And you produce the business case. As soon as the business case is approved, then you plan for the change. And when I say plan for the change, it's about identifying the capabilities that you have in your organization, the capabilities that you need to develop, so that in the next step, you need to develop the capabilities. And in terms of developing the capabilities, I'm talking about developing people's competencies, so training your staff, hiring staff that's qualified to do the work you need them to do. Because I saw in some organizations sometimes people hiring someone with very little PMO experience, and then asking the person to become an expert in giving advice to project managers in terms of how to produce business case. I saw this happening many times. And this is a very difficult situation, because you're asking someone who has no knowledge about performance improvement, process improvement, business process management, anything like this, and you're asking them to help people to produce business case. And in many cases, I see them in a very difficult situation, or producing very bad business case. So this is an important point. Understand the capabilities you need to have in your team, and develop the capabilities, and have people qualified to do the tasks that you are given to them. And final one, as soon as you have everything in place, you have the people, you have the competence, you have the tools, you have the process, you have everything in place, the frameworks, and then you can start delivering more value to your organization. And now we're getting close to the end. So these are on your screen. These are the resources that I'm making available to the PMO community. So first one is my first book. That's it's a very like kind of academic book about project management. A few universities, they use this book in their project and program management course. And the second book is the one that was released last year, at the end of last year. That's Benefits Realization Management for PMO Practitioners. This one, it's much more practice-based. It's much more, it's not an academic book. It's a book that's much more for practitioners like us, to help you to apply the framework. And you can find both books on Amazon and other online retailers. And there is the websites that I launched at the end of last year as well. The BRM Academy, you can find lots of resources. There are free resources. There are links to find the books. And also there's some e-learning. I have launched already some e-learning, but I'm going to publish more e-learning in the future. There's some e-learning that's free, and there are some courses that are paid. So have a look, go there. And if you have any feedback, get in touch with me. I would appreciate. And well, it's just a slide talking a little bit about myself. So just to know that, well, I have a few qualifications in the area of project management and more than 20 years experience. So I'm not basic academic. So I'm a person that started as a project planner and controller, and have been like project manager, program manager, portfolio manager, PMO manager, all these roles. And I worked for various organizations in many different countries. I even worked for Gazprom. I worked for Gazprom marketing and trading here in the UK. So I have lots of Russian friends, but unfortunately, I never managed to learn how to speak Russian. But I learned other things, like, well, they tried to teach me how to drink vodka, but I'm still learning. And I've been a researcher, author of books, many articles, and lecturer for some universities. Currently, I'm a project supervisor for master's students at the University of Warwick, and I'm reviewer of some of the most important project management journals. And also I was a subject matter expert reviewer of the Benefits Realization Management Practice Guide that was launched by the PMI, I think that a couple of years ago. So, well, I hope you appreciated the session, and you have my contact details on your screen, so please feel free to send me an email if you want to get in touch.
Thank you, Carlos. It was great. We have some questions in chat. Could you answer some? I think we have about 5-10 minutes.
Okay, let me have a look. Okay, so let me see which is the first one. Okay. I think the first one is how can we estimate in money the profit of a PMO, establishing a company? How can we estimate in money the profit of a PMO? Well, I mean, I believe that you were talking about the value that the PMO can create to the organizations, how to translate this into monetary terms. And well, I think that this is very related to the PMO value ring. So I would recommend you to have a look at the PMO value ring. And because, well, it's probably
the best answer.
Yeah, it's probably the best way to answer your question, because it's not simple, something that I can answer here in like a couple of minutes. But in terms of benefits realization management, so it's one of the functions, one of the things that the PMO does. And I really recommend you to apply the PMO value ring, because it's the best way for you to well, express the value that the PMO can deliver to the organization. Yeah, I would love to be able to give you a shorter answer in 2 minutes, but it would be very difficult. Let me see the next one. Okay, sorry. What could be recommended to measure and manage the benefits in post-project period? So, that's an important one, because in many cases, people will close the project and then will not measure benefits, will not measure. And so I think here we have 2 points. We have some projects that will have all the benefits realized during the project life cycle, which is fine. This is something that happens. So if this happens, it's fine. So, but most of the projects will have the benefits realized after the end of the project life cycle. So in this case, I normally recommend that in the benefits realization plan, you determine who is going to measure the benefits after the project closure. So this is very important. You need to define, in the benefits realization plan, you need to define first what the benefits are, the second, the targets, and third, when they are going to be realized, and fourth, who is going to be monitoring this. So this is extremely important. And obviously, you need to be also defining the monitoring point. So how often this is going to be monitored, and who is the person, and what would be the way to manage. This is something that will vary from organization to organization, from project to project. And that's why you see that the PMI recommends that it's extremely important that you have a benefits realization plan for every project. This is extremely important. And normally what you have the responsibility for measuring the benefits and for reporting the results being handed over to someone at the end of the project closure. Sometimes this responsibility goes to the PMO. Sometimes this responsibility goes to the program management team. So when the project's part of a program, the project's closed, and then the program team continues tracking the benefits. And sometimes there is some kind of a business performance management area who manages indicator KPIs and things like this. So there's no single answer. The answer is this needs to be defined in the benefits realization plan. Let me see the next one. Any examples of projects that were performed successfully but failed in benefits realization? Oh, this is classic. No, I have lots of examples. I think that the most interesting one was a project that it was like 15 years ago. It was at the time when I first met Americo. I was a project manager in Brazil, and I remember that we delivered a system to a retail organization. We developed a system to sell a specific bundle of mobile phones and earphones. And the project was successful. We developed the system, we launched the system, and 1 month later, no sales. 3 months later, no sales. 6 months later, no sales. And then after almost 1 year, we had hundreds of mobile phones and earphones in stock, no sales. And then someone went to one of the shops to test the system, and the system was not working. And not because of the project, but because of something in the shops, and the interesting thing is about monitoring the benefits realization, because the system was developing fine. There was a problem in the shops that was not making people able to use the system, but if we're not tracking the benefits realization, we will not know, and that's what we're not doing well in that place. So we only noticed after 10 months because we are not tracking. And that's why it's extremely important that you track benefits realization, because if you don't track, you will not know that the benefits are not being realized. So it's very important. Always track your benefits. Someone asked a question if the books are in Russian.
This is the best question.
Well, I will let you answer.
No. This is a question for you.
Well, My first book, it's just in English, so only in English. And but the second book, it was written in English, but well, we have some work in progress at the moment to get it translated to Russian, and I believe that a Russian version should be launched at some point soon.
We hope so. Okay. One more question. Not for you. America, are you here? America, I know you're here.
Just a moment, just a moment. Yes, I'm here.
A question for you.
Okay.
Can PMO value ring be compared to Axelos P30?
In fact, they are complementary because P30 is a framework, and it's a little more theoretical, and it gives a very, very good overview about PMO and its connection with the strategy, governance, many important aspects that should be developed and defined when you are creating a PMO. So the P30 framework is very, very useful. And when we developed the PMO value ring methodology, we used P30 as well other interesting sources of knowledge that were available, and we tried to create something that can be easily connected to the P30 approach, the P30 perspective. The PMO value ring is a little different, and why? Because I could say that it's more tactical, because the objective of the PMO value ring is much more practical in terms of defining, setting up your PMO or assessing your PMO to check if you are in the right path to generate perception of value. So when we talk about the PMO value ring, it's much more focused on collecting your stakeholders' expectations and define functions based on these expectations, how to define the PMO process, how to define indicators for your PMO, how to define the head count and the competences of your team, how to plan and ensure the maturation, the evolution of your PMO. So you can see that we are talking about very practical things. And why? Because the PMO value ring was developed by a group of 122 experienced PMO leaders that they are living in the battlefield. So the idea was different. We were there developing the ring not because we were very concerned about discussing theoretical aspects, but much more because we were trying to create something that could be useful tomorrow. So if you want to start to use it, you can do it tomorrow. Actually, you can do it today if it's not too late, right? So in fact, the objectives are different, and they are in some way they are complementary and connected. Okay, I suggest you something interesting. If you go to let me share.
We will show all about methodology and instruments in 1 minute.
Okay.
So
I just can I just share very quickly share a link, because there is a webinar talking about the differences on many different certifications and methods on PMOs. You just have to go to this website. Let me share on chat. Just a second. Chat. Come on. Okay. So if any of you go to this link, you can find it in the chat, and scroll down, you will see webinars. And one of the webinars is a journey through the most relevant PMO certifications in the world. At this webinar, you will listen about the experience of certified people, and they will say about the difference, you know, between P3O and PMO Value Ring and other certifications. Okay, that's it.
Oh. Thank you, America. Thank you, Carlos. Сейчас мы закроем текущую сессию, но не отключайтесь, буквально через минутку мы вернемся и расскажем о ближайших планах, и там будет еще один небольшой сюрприз. Thank you.